Hold on. Hello, Becky. Thank you for doing this therapist spotlight with me.
Thank you.
So, we're going to talk about your journey into private practice. How long have you been in private practice now?
So it's been since April. So it's coming up 6 months, I think. Hang on, May, June, July, August, September. Yeah, coming up 5, 6 months
So
since
early
I started.
days.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's made you decide to go into private practice?
Um, there's been a number of things that maybe want to go into private practice. So a sense of wanting to I've got different toolkits that I want to use that maybe I can't use to their maximum at the moment, I think, in terms of my NHS role. So I feel like, yeah, so not just in terms of CBT, but from previously before I was in therapy and doing nursing, I had sort of my fitness and kind of health coaching side of things in the picture as well. So it's kind of wanting to, I suppose, individualize things a little bit more. So that's part of it. And also because I've always wanted to work for myself since in my 20s. I've always wanted to work for myself. So
Yeah, so you've always had that seed. Did you, when
yeah,
you were a personal trainer, were you?
yeah,
Did you
yeah.
run your own business then, or was that?
I was self-employed, but mainly doing group fitness because that was kind of my first passion was group fitness. So great, but I was self-employed and I did have technically a business, but I lacked confidence and had stronger imposter syndrome than I do now. So yeah, so there's a sense of from a I as I've got older now and things I've worked on over the years that my self-esteem, my self-worth has that has improved. And I think that's what's prevented me. Ever since I was I've always wanted to have my own business since I was about 23. And now 40 next year. And it's like, well, it's now or never, basically.
Oh, how exciting. What do you think's helped you make the decision and kind of given you the confidence to? Because it is a huge thing.
Mm.
I don't know if every therapist who goes into private practice has always had that drive to go, but I think I had a little bit of it that I thought, oh, that would be nice, but I had no idea how it would happen. So just put it on a back burner.
Yeah.
Helped
I
you.
think yeah. I think I suppose I think the things that have helped me, I think, been working on myself over the years. I've had a strong kind of personal development drive, I
Mm.
think, anyway, to kind of grow. And I've had my own struggles, and I've always been quite open about my lived experience with, in terms of an eating disorder, kind of addiction issues, anxiety, and I have overcome those over the years. And I think that also obviously prevented me in those early years being able to do something like this because I didn't have a good understanding of myself and my abilities and putting in boundaries with there's stuff I think with private practice and all around. I think you have got to have a good sense of self, like, to be able to then, yeah, kind of advocate for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
um when a client, if a client's not adhering to, in terms of attendance policy, and you've got other people who could come through, and it's kind of, it's just enforcing your attendance and cancellation policy. You've got to have a sense of, yeah, because I think there can
Confidence,
be
isn't it? You
conflict,
have to wear
people.
a number of hats.
Yeah, the wearing of different hats, kind of the elements of like people pleasing,
Mm.
I think can come up as well. And yeah, I'm not really sure if that answered the question. I've kind of gone off on a tangent, but
That you feel
yeah,
like, yeah, it does, because you feel like you're in the right place for you now to be running your own business because of the work you've done on yourself and your
yeah,
self-development, that you kind of got the confidence. And I suppose I was asking what helped, because it's such a decision, isn't it? And I know many therapists kind of might be in roles or in jobs where they're just not that happy. And
yeah,
it helps to hear kind of what other therapists have done to kind of make that leap and take that
yeah.
step.
And I think there's a sense of being, I suppose, diagnosed with ADHD, 4 years ago now, in my mid 30s, explained a lot for me. in terms of like, yeah, as you say, that kind of difficulty in, yeah, maybe in other roles perhaps, and kind of feeling like, yeah, in terms of fitting in within those as well, and working in my own kind of style, which isn't always conducive to the rules and environment of services, I think.
Do
Yeah.
you think having ADHD will help you in private practice and running your own business? It sounds like the flexibility that you get and the
Yeah.
autonomy is going to be really good for.
I think and there's that variety and being able to have that independence and choose how you want to work. I think definitely creativity is part of that. Um, I think things that do come up, I suppose, are still those nagging kind of like negative thoughts that sometimes come in. Let's say if, a client, I don't know, yeah, if a client is sort of very sort of doesn't come back to you, or or you're wondering when the next person's going to come through, if your referrals are a bit sort of shorter. It's kind of like it's trusting yourself to know, look, there will be more clients and more people will come. And yeah, at those points where it's
Riding the wave
quieter.
with that.
Right, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but creativity, flexibility. But again, I sometimes people sort of say about ADHD being kind of a superpower, but again, some people are like, no, it's not at all. So it's probably like, yeah, from a creativity and flexibility standpoint, yes, but from an admin standpoint, probably not.
Well, I can outsource that. That's
I can outsource it. So yeah,
that's good. What have been your kind of main fears about private practice and the things that have made you gone, oh, has it been the admin?
admin. Yes, it's always the admin. It's not even hard, but it's again, I think that is the ADHD side of things, or it's just like, oh, it's like being if you're accountable to a business or a company for
That
your
extra.
work, it gives you that extra push. And it's obviously it's about being accountable to yourself at the end of the day, because it's still important,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah, so yeah, admin, kind of what else? Um, yeah, I'd probably say the question again, just so we're
What are your initial fears about private practice? You've really
um
days they might still be present, or where there's some kind of big things that you're like, oh my God, this is so scary.
just that scare what I call kind of the scarcity mindset that can kind of come in. And I think it's probably myself is probably my biggest fear of like, just like will there be clients, that kind of element of like what happens if things are quieter, and the lack, I suppose, the lack of like stable salary slash pension is about being accountable for you are you're not you're not accountable to a business anymore. You're not, you've got to account for yourself. So I'd say the hardest things are that, and I suppose, yeah, in terms of that schedule and kind of routine, you can create your own schedule and routine, but sometimes that can be problematic as well. But I'd say those things, marketing definitely in there, and kind of like how much social media to do, what to be on, how much to do, like to niche or not to niche, that
All
stuff.
the famous questions: to dance
Yeah,
on TikTok or not dance on
yeah,
TikTok.
yeah.
And how's it going? So you're kind of 5, 6 months in. How is it
Mm.
going so far?
Yeah, there was definitely a quieter bit in the summer. But I think that might be a general thing anyway. But again, because you don't have anything to base it off of from a year before that, you kind of going, oh, is this what it's like normally? So you don't have a normal.
It's tricky. When I started, I tried to track it and I just couldn't get any of those patterns. I kind of think I've definitely noticed this year I think COVID has shifted
Mm,
stuff and made it a little
mm,
harder for now, but that will change. But at Christmas, nobody comes at Christmas. Watch out for that. Book
yeah.
people in and they don't come. So
So yeah, take Christmas off, take bits of summer off. I'm guessing it's about, yeah, planning, I think planning your year around those peaks, I think. So
yeah.
September has been, yeah, like end of August into September. I'm usually getting about 2 or 3 inquiries a week. Um,
That's absolutely
yeah,
brilliant. 6 months in, that's
yeah, which is great, but I've got nowhere to put them. Because I'm just in that point where I'm sort of transitioning around. I've got more is good. Obviously, I've got more referrals coming down, I think, because I have niched, definitely.
Oh, fantastic.
Um,
Brilliant.
um,
That's
but
always
it's just,
such a big thing, isn't it?
yeah.
You
And
know,
I think that's helped a lot because people know, well, binge eating or eating disorders, yeah, we go to Becky for that. Um, and referrals that I get from like word, whether that's from word of mouth, from pick colleagues, from social media, it all kind of adds up, I think, from different sources. But yeah, it's just that if you're, I think the main thing is if you are navigating that line of still being employed somewhere and taking on private, I think for me the main thing I've learned is kind of around that organization, around those that it is balancing the two, and that's where I'm at the moment.
you're still doing some NHS and you've
Yeah,
got private practice. And did you launch with a website or did your website come a bit later? Because you've got, I'll link it underneath the,
yeah.
yeah, but you've got a beautiful website and you've really invested in it. And the photos are beautiful. It's got lovely messaging.
Mm.
When you started in private practice, did you have all that done?
It was about, I'd started the process back in February, and like in terms of website design, I had an idea of what I wanted,
Mm.
how I wanted it to look. I had quite, I suppose, a clear vision in terms of like the colors and the branding, what I wanted. But then, yeah, the website launched about 2 months after I started, so we prioritized getting that out there. Um, yeah, and then in terms of inquiries, initially I've had more from, let's say, Psychology Today, but now website wise, yeah, 5 6 months in, I'm getting from the website, from Google searches, people coming through.
That's nice. That's kind of I know at Pocket Site, that's what we kind of say, 3 to 6
Mm,
months. I think
yeah,
it's nice to hear that, isn't it? So people can get an idea. And how is your caseload? I mean, it sounds like it's doing very well. What do you think
yeah.
is the best marketing tool? What is driving these referrals, do you think?
I'm gonna say I still think it's Google. I still think it, like, but they are coming from different sources, so it's about an even split between,
Google to your website or
yeah, yeah,
to Psychology Today, would you?
Google to website and Psychology Today. Dog's
Oh,
getting
I love
involved.
that. Your
Dog
admin,
recording.
admin assistant.
Admin assistants coming in. But yeah, so yeah, and then because I've got, yeah, Substack as well. I've had a couple of inquiries that have come via Substack.
Heck, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
that they've read my blog posts and,
Yeah,
yeah, come through that route as well. So a smattering from everywhere.
yeah. What's your Substack called?
It is called Breaking Cycles with Becky, or Becky Grace Therapy. Um, yeah, so
That's
it's about,
exciting.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's about being, obviously it's kind of breaking cycles in general, and it kind of fits CBT as well. So it's
yeah,
kind of breaking the binge restrict cycle, but it's also about breaking cycles, which is what CBT is about, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, I kind of, again, it's like this there's a creativity side of this where I've envisaged what I've wanted it to look like, and quite a quite clear idea of what I'm trying to break. But that's sort of my mission statement, really, is helping women break cycles, whether that's binge restrict or otherwise. It might be
yeah,
binge restricting with food. It could be in other areas of life as well.
yeah. Fantastic. And what have you found is the most rewarding aspect of running your own business so far?
So choosing my client, so not choosing my, but like, I think in terms of, because I've been quite specific about my ideal client, and I think that comes across in the website as well.
Mm,
That's, I think, has helped. So when I say, in terms of picking clients, like the clients that are coming through to me are mostly what I've been wanting in terms of presentation, because I've been quite clear on the ideal client. So it's just been, it's been nice to be quite in the work that we're doing, like, obviously, from the flexibility around, let's say I've got someone who actually has got, let's say, for example, panic, and they've got eating issues. We
mm,
can do some exposure work in person, and we can do some meeting work. So I'm not, I suppose, limited or pigeonholed to one
yeah,
area, or like I've got to focus on panic, or I've got to focus on eating disorders. I am doing both, but because we've got we haven't got the same time frame or time scale that you might have in, let's say, IAPT or some kind of NHS service in terms of the remit. We
Mm.
can go for longer, or we can try and be creative and try things out that I maybe wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And that's been probably the most rewarding part.
Yeah, how you find I found that my skills just really up leveled when I was working with people for longer, and I was really shocked how some people would come to me and not need 8 sessions, like they'd be like
Mm,
4 sessions, I'm fine, I'm good to go, and I was like, I'm
mm,
so used to trained into giving 8 sessions. I never
mm,
considered that people didn't want 8 sessions, and then
mm.
the change in people when you go a lot longer, and it's just I find that very rewarding.
Yeah. Like, I think if you've got, let's say, for example, someone with a phobia, we can go, right, let's spend an afternoon and go get this done, and we can just go and do it, and that's really nice, to be able to do that. You can make it, I think you can make a difference in a different way, and
Mm,
yeah, not feel that. For me, is about not feeling restricted in what I do. It's being able to be flexible and yeah, open to
yeah,
what can be done.
yeah. And if somebody was thinking about going into private practice, what advice would you give if you could go back in time and, kind of 6 months ago, what is there anything you'd be telling yourself or saying, do this now or
Strategy, systems,
mm,
processes, get them done, and but also have a clear sense of who you want to serve. Because I think sometimes it'd be like, again, that comes into that scarcity mindset of, I'll take anyone if they're paying. Almost, I'll take anyone if they're paying. But actually, are they people you want to help and support? What do you want from your private practice? Is it you just, what do you want your week to look like?
mm,
How, for me, it's about sustainability. I know I don't want to burn out. So a lot of my ethos is around creating something that's really sustainable and manageable. So having a clear
it's
idea
lovely for
about
your
yeah,
clients, isn't it? That if you're
yeah,
that if they see you, because that definitely comes through on your website, it
mm.
does. And that's lovely if you're living that as
On the whole, I'm about 80% of the time I'm my website, and then the other 20%, again, it's about being good enough. It's not about being perfection, because we're not robots. Therapists aren't robots. I think there's that. Yeah, it's like you can be professional and yeah.
when did you decide to niche? Because that is, kind of deciding on the client, because there's niching in terms of an area, and then there's kind of thinking about the ideal client that you want to work with, which transforms everything, but it's so hard to do, and not many people that coming into running their own business even know about it.
There was I again a lot of behind the scenes work. Like for the last 3 years, I've just been
Mm.
reading as much as I can, following and just making notes and saving things as I go along around things like business strategy, about, because I want a sustainable business, looking at different streams of income, that kind of thing. So I've done a lot of reading and research before I've done this and gone
That's
into it.
nice, isn't it? Because I think that provides the foundation.
Mm.
It looks like everything's come together quite quickly for you. Like
Um,
I'm on
mm.
about my fourth website. My first couple were, I mean, embarrassing. But your first one is like amazing, but it's kind of you put in a lot of work.
It's yeah, it's kind of the niching element of like the first 3 months I was like eating disorders, trauma, and self-esteem, because they're all interlinked. But then it's like, actually that's quite confusing for people. It's like, well, which one is it? Obviously we do work on all three of those, because that's what it is. It is low self-esteem, it is kind of complex trauma, but actually people just, they want an answer, they want a solution. They're problem focused in terms of fix my problem. So there was that aspect. The being, obviously, I think with your help as well, like you almost like you giving me permission to, like, I'd already sort of decided, but you kind of gave me permission to go and just go, yes, niche as much as possible. Okay, binge eating. I have the lived experience there as well. Um, I've had a long lived experience of binge eating disorder. So, I've been in recovery for about 5 years now, but like using that lived experience as part
Amazing.
of the the
Yeah.
brand, almost part of the branding as well. And that's what people have been drawn to when they've contacted me. It's because I've got lived experience of binge eating and ADHD, and like that spoke to them. There's a storytelling aspect as well on my website of I'm telling the story of, you know, how I've come from A to get to B and how I've got there, which then makes hopefully people think I could also get there.
Yeah, because we're choosing a person when we choose a
Mm.
therapist, aren't we? We want the story and we want to be able to relate to the person. So have you really seen things shift when you've narrowed down?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, and they are they are the ideal client kind of coming through. They are, you know, they're usually quite highly sensitive people. They're usually, you know, like they are a reflection of myself of years ago, kind of, you know, of a previous journey that I've had. They are there, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly.
Mm.
On a journey. And what's the dream going forward? What's the plan?
So again, yeah, thinking sustainability, the plan is, and ultimately my goal was like, do not burn out, because I've been through cycles of burnout before, and I want to break the cycle of burnout
Yeah.
ultimately, and that's where I'm at. I want to create something that's sustainable, that I'm not overworking, you know, because I have a tendency to drive towards that, I think, as well. So, you know, it's just about having the right amount of clients per day that really support, you know, supports my well-being either side of it.
How many clients would
Yeah.
that be for you? How many would you like to?
um Now, based on my time in IAPT, it's definitely not 23 or 25. It's not there. I think it's around 15,
Yeah.
but but I'm foreseeing, because as I'm going through, I'm going, oh, okay, right, I need to think about, okay, so if they don't show up, so maybe I need to overbook by a few, and
Yeah.
then that allows for no shows and sickness, etc. I think it will start when I'm fully private practice. It will be around 15,
Yeah. That's what I
and
got.
then it will decrease over time as I look to explore other streams of incomes, because I would like to do, I definitely like to do more like workshops, maybe retreats and things like that in future.
Mm.
um but again, that all requires energy input from me, so I'm always evaluating, does this support my well-being? Have I put a boundary in here?
Mm.
How is this, you know, like, because obviously I could do all the things if I wanted to do all the things, and you know, you can get so many different ideas about what you want to do, but it's actually about, you know, yeah, having I think strategy is probably key as part of this, and just building a schedule that works for me, basically.
Yeah. And how are you finding the finances? Is it paying what you expected? Is it working out better?
So in terms of like from a rate, what I was in terms of charging, like again, I've done some work on money mindset, so I think I had priced a little bit higher,
A
but
little
brought it
bit
down.
out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and then yeah, I set I started at 110
Yeah.
per set. Then I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And then I had a little bit of a internal batter around it, and I set it at 90 because that's what felt right to
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
Like, and that even with money mindset work in the mix there, I feel 90 is the right
That
amount.
and that is sustainable, is it? Because I guess if
Yeah.
you're thinking about your health and your well-being, you've got to
Mm.
set your fee at a rate that's going to make
Yeah.
and pay your bills and it's profitable as well.
Yeah. So I've been using the calculator,
Yeah,
the
therapy.
salary calculator as well. But I'll need to reevaluate that when I've gone fully private again. And again, just keep fine tuning, and then not be afraid to put up that rate. If let's say if the inquiries are still coming at the higher rate, then we're okay. That's what I'm thinking.
You
Um,
know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And how are you kind of managing the work-life balance? Because you're doing two jobs effectively at the moment, aren't you? It is
It,
tricky.
it's a struggle at the moment. Not gonna lie. Again, just putting in strong well-being stuff for me at the minute, being really good on the self-care. But ultimately, I think what I'm battling with at the moment is, when do I jump? That's
What are
yeah.
your thoughts at the moment?
Um, yeah, again, it's the scarcity stuff, just sort of briefly coming back in. I've just got to make the jump. I just need to do it. Um, yeah, I think it's about just having a little bit of backup in terms of a couple of months, 2 or 3 months salary, just to be like okay with things, just having that as, I suppose, a bit of a safety net. Um, and then yeah, I think this will all become much easier once I've done like a year and I know what the peaks and the troughs are, or when to plan for them. I think
Like you
that's
can trust it a little bit. But then,
yeah.
does that ever settle down? I think I still have
No.
that a little bit. I've been writing these books, I've done nothing, no marketing on my private
Mm.
practice for a year. And then it
Yeah.
just clicked. All of a sudden, I was like, okay, I've got no clients. That's really interesting because, of course, I've been
Yeah.
writing a book about private practice, but not doing any of the
Yeah.
work. And
So
COVID, absolutely, that came in, that changed
yeah.
everything. But I think that having a buffer, financial buffer is
Yeah.
great. Isn't it?
Yeah. And you did a recent post on Substack just around kind of like going with private referrals kind of only, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just decided, but part of me is like, I want to leave my role, and then maybe I do just have agencies as some backup options. I need something as a, I don't know, yeah.
So your gate drug, like a gateway drug into private
Yeah, a
practice.
little bit.
Working with referral companies and stuff just as
Yeah,
you build the other stuff up, but having that
yeah,
long-term focus. You've done so much work around your marketing. That'll be the next leap that you have
yeah,
to make when you kind of go, okay, no more referral companies and just
yeah.
trust
It's a balance. So, um,
marketing. Yeah, absolutely. And where can I suppose it's been the right decision for you. Should ask that first. You feel like this is like, is it everything you kind of hoped for when this has been a bit of a dream for a long time to
Yes. I sort of sound slightly hesitant on that, but no, it is. It's like it is, and just thinking about, okay, so you get the freedom and the flexibility, but it's also that recognition, realization that I've got to trust in and believe in me,
yeah.
and my ability to do it. So I think that's where the hesitation kind of comes from. But ultimately, if I can sort
And
of
how do
continue to
you
do that work.
support yourself around that? How do you support yourself in the
Um, I do a fair amount, kind of, I suppose, a bit more of the woo kind of affirmations and stuff, and like it is reframing. It's doing my own cognitive restructuring work. Basically, it's
how
doing
to
my personal
tolerate
CBT.
uncertainty?
Yeah,
I had to
yeah,
really kind of get that nailed down because of finances
yeah,
and mindset stuff that you can get into because it's new ground, isn't it? We just don't know.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. And I think that is the key thing for me with the jump, is the tolerating uncertainty
yeah, so
aspect.
behavioral experiments to be going
Yeah,
on.
definitely.
And where can people find you if they'd like to kind of join your Substack community or follow what you do or recommend you to other people? And
Yeah. So Substack is beckygracetherapy.substack.com. Instagram, I'm Becky Grace Therapy. They're the two main places I'm in, although I am on the other ones. I'm like, I am on the other ones, but the two main ones are Instagram and Substack.
do you do any supervision or coaching or anything like that? Or is that something you're going to do later?
It's something I will be doing, when I've gone fully private. That'll definitely be something I'll do.
It's on the future list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think it's something the more therapists are being trained up and considering private practice. So I think these stories really give a very empowering for other people out there considering
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think otherwise it can feel quite isolating. You can feel potentially quite alone in the process, and there's not like a, well, not yet a manual or a book, but but there will be.
In watch this space, yes. We've got a nice
Um,
community, haven't we, on Therapist
yeah,
Corner,
yeah,
which is. And I think sharing these stories, even though it might not kind of settle some of the anxieties down,
mm,
just knowing that I'm kind of 10 years in and I still kind of have some of that
yeah,
uncertainty. and stuff and still get it wrong at times as well. I think
Mm,
it's nice to know that you're on the right track. It is quite a challenging road, but
yeah,
totally worth it. And we don't look back. I've never met
yeah.
anybody who's kind of gone back. So that's
Okay.
fantastic.
It's validating as well.
Absolutely. And goodbye to your little sausage dog as well.
Yes, yes, they've been helpful or not.
Take
Thank you.
care.